Yo, it's your boy, Smoke Method Madden video. Today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit of a test. Jahmyr Gibbs versus David Montgomery in a full season simulation of them being the leading running back. Both of these running backs are one of the better running backs in the league. I mean, they are absolute studs. Jahmyr Gibbs is obviously the younger one. He's only 22 years old and he's only has 1 year of experience. And Jahmyr Gibbs, I really like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot. I like David Montgomery too. I liked him since he was a Bear. David Montgomery's really good at breaking tackles. That's like actually one of his special abilities is he could just break so many tackles. And the Detroit Lions, they kind of rebranded. I mean, they have a better offensive line now than they do or than they used to. So I feel they're just completely new branded. The Dan Campbell Lions are definitely a lot better than the Lions we saw 5 years ago. So we're going to go ahead and do a simulation. First up, we're going to do Jahmyr Gibbs as the season simulation, and we are going to put them as the fourth string running back. We're not going to cut them from the team because I know in Madden, if the other running back's not doing too well, they will put the other one in some games, and I wouldn't leave that in the test to see how often another person would come in. I mean, they're still not going to be in there a lot because they're the fourth string, but that is what we're going to do. Anyway, Jahmyr Gibbs, at the midseason point, the Detroit Lions are going to be 5-1. So that is really good right there for the Detroit Lions, 5-1. I mean, that's obviously pretty similar to the record they have right now. Jared Goff at the midway point, 1,381 yards, 10 passing touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He's doing a lot better than that. In real life, Madden always hates on Jared Goff, and I don't know why. Anyway, Jahmyr Gibbs, 369 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns so far. He does have a fumble of the year. Jared Goff, 87 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Craig Reynolds with 4 rushing touchdowns, and then David Montgomery was able to get 1. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, 507 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. Sam Laporta, 284 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Jameson Williams, 3 receiving touchdowns and 223 yards. There's Jahmyr Gibbs right there. He's definitely the better receiving back out of the two. He has 118 receiving yards. So now we go to the end of the season, and the Detroit Lions, they were the second seed, and they were able to get past the first round, but they do not make it past the San Francisco 49ers and the NFC divisional matchup. So they were, definitely the Lions are going to be making playoffs. If they make it past the divisional round, who knows? Because the NFL playoffs are so unpredictable, especially with them only being one game. So anything can happen in the playoffs. But anyway, the record was 12-5. So really good year. I would say that's probably what they'll go this year, 12-5, maybe even 13-4. Jared Goff at the end of the year, he had 4,071 yards, 33 passing touchdowns and 15 interceptions, a completion percentage of 69%, passer rating of 100.4. Jahmyr Gibbs, he finishes the year with 901 yards and 9 rushing touchdowns, but 4 fumbles. So Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, solid, but 9 rushing touchdowns, 4 fumbles, and under 1,000 yards. That's nothing crazy. Jared Goff, 266 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. David Montgomery was still able to get 4 rushing touchdowns, even being the 4th string. So maybe they thought Jahmyr Gibbs was not that great in the red zone, and Craig Reynolds got 6 rushing touchdowns. So receiving, Amon-Ra St. Brown with 1,278 yards, 15 receiving touchdowns for Amon-Ra. That's a big year right there. Jameson Williams, 856 yards with 5 receiving touchdowns. Sam Laporta, 9 receiving touchdowns with 830 yards. So now we're going to the David Montgomery as the lead back. So this is the midseason stats for Jared Goff as David Montgomery as the lead back. 1,444 yards, 11 passing touchdowns and 4 interceptions, a 66 completion percentage. David Montgomery at the midway point seems to be struggling. Only 200 yards at the midway point with 5 rushing touchdowns, and he has a football of the year already. Jahmyr Gibbs, they're still giving him a good amount of attempts for him being the 4th string, 129 yards and 0 touchdowns. Jared Goff has 79 yards off 19 attempts. He doesn't got a rushing touchdown. Amon-Ra midway has 412 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. Sam Laporta, 268 yards, no touchdowns yet. And Khalif Raymond, 253 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Jameson Williams, 3 receiving touchdowns. And David Montgomery was able to get a receiving touchdown as well. which I'm kind of shocked they didn't use Jahmyr Gibbs for that, but I mean, he is the fourth string, so they're not going to be using him a whole lot. And they make the playoffs again, and they're able to make it to the second round again, and they lose to the 49ers again. But a little bit different about this playoff story. This time, instead of being the 2 seed, they were the 7 seed, and they were able to knock out the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round. So instead of being the 2 seed, they were the 7 seed, and their record is 9-8. So record-wise for the Detroit Lions, they do a lot better with Jahmyr Gibbs as their starting running back. Let's go and see if it's solely just David Montgomery holding it back or if anyone else underperformed. So Jared Goff, 4,138 yards, 26 passing touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, 68 completion percentage with a rating of 99.6. I think his numbers were slightly better as Jahmyr Gibbs had the leading role. Jahmyr Gibbs, you see right there, he had the most attempts on the team. So they apparently Dan Campbell does not like David Montgomery being the lead back at all. According to Madden's eyes, Jahmyr Gibbs 6 rushing touchdowns, David Montgomery 8. 568 yards for Jahmyr Gibbs and 367 yards for David Montgomery. Jared Goff 198 yards with 4 rushing touchdowns. And then Craig Reynolds with 42 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So they do a little bit worse, but I feel like it's because David Montgomery, I don't know, they just put less hope in him. He also did have an injury. He missed like 2 weeks as well. So that definitely affected the simulation a little bit. But maybe it's just saying, hey, David Montgomery, he can't be an every down kind of back. Jameson Williams led the team in receiving yards with 1,032. He had 6 receiving touchdowns. Amon Ra 12 receiving touchdowns and 1,031 yards. David Montgomery with 173 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Sam Laporta, 2 receiving touchdowns and 832 yards. And Khalif Raymond with 579 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. So that's around the end of the video. Make sure you guys go and leave a like and subscribe. This kind of answers the question. The Detroit Lions, they do better record-wise with Jahmyr Gibbs as the lead back and David Montgomery. They do a little bit worse. Still a good team. They've made playoffs, made it to the second round, but they do better with Jahmyr Gibbs. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.